Hi, Hugh. How are you doing today?
I'm doing great. Yourself?
I'm doing great. I love the blue of your what you're wearing with the eyes. It's very
Oh,
nice.
thank
Yeah,
you.
it just
Thank you.
stands out. Well, Hugh, thank you so much for your time. So I'd
Sure.
love to ask you a few meaningful questions
Okay.
that tie both into your business wisdom and your spiritual path, and
Hmm.
hopefully leave you with a sense of who I am too.
Great.
So yeah, so you're known for being incredibly successful and deeply spiritual.
Hmm.
How do you integrate intuition or divine guidance into making high stakes business decisions?
Um, I have done that over time in terms of I just read a lot, embraced it, and then I tried it, and then what would happen is things that I would do would then manifest, and I would read some more about it, and then I try some more. I'm like because I'm very curious, and so they things that have happened to me that just were amazing. Like I was advising a hamburger restaurant chain, and he wanted to franchise his business, and I said, well, let's talk about it. And so I came in, what I always do before I talk to somebody about their business is I always try their product. So I got there early, I ordered a hamburger, a milkshake, and fries, and the milkshake was incredible. So I asked him how he did that so I could understand that, his secret there.
Good
And then
one.
yes, which was really interesting. And then, but his hamburger was rather mediocre. So he sits down, he goes, let's talk about this. And I said, there's really nothing to talk about. He goes, what do you mean there's nothing to talk about? And I said, well, your hamburger is mediocre at best. So this isn't really a franchisable concept. He goes, my hamburger is great. And of course, he didn't know I already tried one. So I said, oh, really? Why don't you order one? So, and he's the owner. So comes back and he takes a bite and he goes, that is rather mediocre, isn't it? And I said, yeah. And guess what? That's the best it gets because they all know you're the owner. So the customers aren't going to get them that good. He goes, well, can you help me get a better meat purveyor? And I said, yeah, sure. I said, I just got to go back to Atlanta because we have a big golf course community I got to work on, but I'll get back to you next week. So I jump on the plane. And I end the discussion. I walk out and I said, "Okay, universe, get me the answer." So I fly back to Atlanta. I get on the plane to fly back, and this guy sits down next to me. He puts up his hood, he puts on his sunglasses, and he puts on his earbuds. So I'm watching him. I go, "Okay, I get it. You don't want to talk, okay? Don't worry. I won't ask. I won't talk to you." So we fly all the way across the country. We land at LAX, and he picks up his phone. I see him kind of going like this with his phone, and it won't turn on. And he's fiddling around with us. The plane is taxiing up to the gate. Finally, he turns to me and goes, "Hey, can I borrow your phone?" I said, "Sure." So he calls his driver and hands the phone back. And I said, "Okay, well, now's my chance to say something to him." I said, "So, you here on business?" He goes, "No, no, no. I live here. I just was doing something in Atlanta." I said, "Well, what do you do?" He goes, "I'm the largest meat purveyor on the West Coast. I go do hamburgers for Gordon Ramsay. I do this, I do that." I go, I smile. I'm
Hmm.
thinking, this is what I needed. So I said, "Can I get your card, please? Because I'd like to set up a call between you and one of my clients." And this was the most amazing thing. He's holding his phone that won't turn on. He takes out his business card. He hands me his business card. The second he lets go of his business card, his phone turns on. Not like a second before, not like a second after. The exact instant he lets go of his business card,
It's
his phone
like the
turns on. He
universe
goes,
pushing it
"Look,
together, right?
yeah." He goes, "Look at that. My phone just turned on." I said, "Thank you, universe. I appreciate that. Worked perfectly." So we set
So
up the
you knew
call.
like, okay, this is it. That's what I gotta, that's what I'm gonna do.
Yeah, but the amazing thing is how I asked the universe for assistance. This guy sits down next to me, which is pretty amazing, but then he won't talk to me. And then, the instant he gives me his business card for the call, his phone turns on. And then and his phone turned on, and it never would have happened. And it didn't turn on until
Mm.
after he gave me his business card. And he didn't do anything to it. It was just sitting in his hand. And all of a sudden it was bloop, it goes on. So
It's
I've
amazing.
had so many experiences like that, that it's just been an interesting journey for me because, again, because of my curiosity, I'll try I'm not afraid of something not happening, so I just try it, and then I watch to see what's going to happen. And I found that the universe is such a fascinating place that it's really there to assist us, and all you have to do is embrace that and believe it, and amazing things will happen. And I can go on for the full 15 minutes and talk about that, but I'm sure there's other
Or
things.
like the whole day, right? Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
Well,
exactly.
would you also agree? Because that's my experience as well. I'm 100% with you on that. I have like a million of examples. But I feel like
Exactly.
what you just said, right? The guy was there, he put the hoodie down, like earpod, like, he gave you the sign, like, don't talk to me.
Right.
And you got the sign. You're like, okay, fine, fine, fine. But you did not, if I understand correctly, you did not judge it in your mind or like, oh, you did not have any kind of feelings about it. So I feel like with the universe, when it's trying to do something for us, if we remain kind and
And
just calm
open,
and
exactly, and
open,
open, exactly,
and
to
then suddenly
possibility.
it's like something just turned and you're like, wow, but if we start to be stubborn and judge or negativity, maybe things will
Exactly.
have gone differently, right?
Absolutely. I mean, one of the big things was, this is really interesting. Um, have you heard of the author Napoleon Hill? He wrote a book called Think and Grow Rich.
Yeah, I've read that one.
Okay, well, this you'll love this story then, okay? Because I was watching an infomercial late one night, and I just was randomly going through the channels, and I stopped on it, and he was talking about Napoleon Hill's book, Think and Grow Rich, and he said, "I know how much you love the book, but the true heart of what Napoleon Hill learned by living with all these great industrialists isn't in the book because." Andrew Carnegie wouldn't let him put it in. He said, "You can put anything else you want in the book, but you're not putting this one thing in because I paid for you to go stay with all these guys. So I'm keeping that one for myself." So the guy goes, "Now, if you pay me $30,000, I'll tell you what that secret is that isn't in the book." And I said, "Wow, I'd like to know what that is." I said, "I'm not paying 30,000." So I said, "Universe, get me the answer." So I put it out in the universe. A friend of mine is giving a speech to a tech group that coming Friday. This was on a Tuesday night that I was watching the infomercial. So I called my friend and I said, "Hey, you know what? I'm just going to go so you know somebody in the audience because it'll be a big audience and it'll make you a little more comfortable if you know somebody in the audience." He goes, "That's nice of you." So I go, he gives a speech. The speech ends and they have an author for the coming week. And the name of his book is Today We Are Rich. I said, "Wait a second. Think and Grow Rich? Today We
Hmm.
Are Rich?" I said, "I bet that guy knows the answer." So I take the book, I go up to have him autograph, I stick in front of me, and while he's writing, I said, "So what's the secret that Andrew Carnegie wouldn't let Napoleon Hill put in his book?" He looks up at me like with this look of surprise. He goes, "How did you know about that?" I said, "It's not important how I know about it. What's important is you know what it is. What is it?" And he was so stunned. He said, "Well, the way the universe works is the more you give, the more the universe gives back." And that's what he learned from all these great industrials. Like Henry Ford actually kept a T account that tracked everything that went out versus everything that came back in. And so that's kind of what you were talking about. It's like the more you give or the more you're open to it, the more the universe gives back. And so I've been watching that whole aspect of the way the universe works. And it's really true. I found the
Yeah.
more I give with no expectation of anything in return, the more return I get out of the universe. So it's really
Yeah.
interesting.
Yeah, and I think also like loss and gain, right? Like there should be loss in a sense if you want to gain, right? You have to make room for
Yeah,
something new. Like you want to, it's just
yeah.
like loss and gain, and the more we give is the more
Mhm.
we lose, so we
That's
can
right.
gain
More,
in
that's right.
return.
Yeah, it's
Yeah, that's
fascinating.
beautiful. I mean, I've heard you speak obviously several times, and I'm like, oh yes, yes, I 100% I'm with you.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, so yeah, so for example, so my business is in custom styling and I serve professionals, but I want to scale toward the ultra high net worth clients. I have a few, but in
Mhm.
your experience, what separates vendors who stay transactional from those who become indispensable partners to people like you?
I think it's your mindset. I mean, that's and just being available for it to happen. And for example, it was so interesting. I run this real estate platform, and one of my partners said, last year. We're doing really well, but I'd like to do $100+ million deal. So I just put it out in the universe, and I called one of my friends, and we were looking at a build to rent project, and we didn't like it. And so I said to his friend, I said, "Do you have anything else that's interesting?" So it's the curiosity. He goes, "Well, there's this large, super Walmart anchored power center that's off market that somebody's trying to buy." And I said, "Well, why don't you put our name in case that deal doesn't close? That'd be something we'd be interested in buying." So the deal fell out. We jumped in. It never went on the market. And we ended up buying $127 million shopping center. And my partner said to me, he goes, you're just amazing. I just say, we need to do a large deal. And out of nowhere, you come up with $100+ million deal. And I said, well, I just,
I
that's the way
didn't do a
it works.
thing.
It's right. That's what I do. I just put it out in the universe, and the universe comes back. So I think that's all it is just having that mindset that yes, you can go from a small vendor to a critical vendor, and just embrace that concept, and you'll attract those opportunities.
Thank you for that reaffirmation, I would say, because I've always believed in that. And like, again, many, many years, my whole life, it has
Yeah.
been one thing after another. The things that came to me was just like, miracles, right? When the universe is in its operation, it's kind of like a miracle, right?
Oh, absolutely. But everybody looks like it, but no, it's just that's how it works. And people look at me and they go, well, I'll believe it when I see it. And I said, you're never going to see it then. I said, you got to
Never,
believe
never.
it, then you'll see it, not see it, then believe it. So,
Yes. Matter and mind are one and the same.
absolutely. And so, I mean, I just having that belief and then being curious, it's just so interesting. I mean, I had another situation where our firm was going to make wanted to respond to a Disney RFP. So I got a call from New York from one of our guys and said, "Hey, do you know anybody at Disney?" And I said, "Nah, I don't know. Let me think about it. I'll call you back over on Monday." So I went up to the club, played golf. I was sponsoring somebody for membership. So I said to the starter, "Hey, if anybody wants to join me, just have them join me, because I'm just here to make sure these other two guys have fun." He goes, "Yeah, so and so wants to join." And so we tee off, we're walking down the fairway. And I go over to the guy that joined us. I said, "Yeah, I'm just here to make sure my friend and a member of the membership committee have fun." He goes, "I'm going to sponsor my first member." I said, "Really? What's his name?" "So his name's Nick Van Dyke." I said, "What does Nick do?" He goes, "Oh, he's the head of business development for Disney." I said, "Great." I'd like his contact information. But I mean, that just happens because I
I
just
love it.
believe in
I love it.
how the universe is there to help us and assist all of
Yeah.
us. So,
I love it. Well,
oh,
thank you. I really appreciate that because I mean not just for myself but also for everyone who's going to be listening, because I always keep on telling it's not just being kind of positive. I mean positive is so important, but I
yes,
think it's understanding how powerful our thoughts are, and
exactly.
that where we go, like skiing. I don't do skiing, but I did once and it was like like why did I do it? But I did it indoor skiing and I almost died, but I'm alive. And but what I've learned is wherever your eyes go, not even your hand, wherever your eyes go, that's where your ski goes. Like, and I look there, and literally,
What's interesting? I'm a big golfer. Just to give you the corollary to that, one of my teachers said, "Do you know the difference between a predator and a prey?" I said, "No." He says, "Prey has eyes on the side of his head, so he can see predators coming. Predators, their eyes face forward because the body always follows the eyes." So if you think about like a coyote or a lion or something, they look at the prey and then their body just goes there. So I can completely understand your skiing thing. When you look one way, then your body went there, because that's the way the mind works. You're
right?
absolutely right.
Focus, right? So whatever you put your mind and attention to or your energy, that's where
Exactly.
you will go. And I 100% agree. But thank you for that.
Yeah.
So I'm on the good path. I should be fine.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for your time,
My
Hugh. I mean,
pleasure.
it's a pleasure, and I hope to see you maybe in October. So I really look
Right.
forward to see you.
Great.
And
Thank you
I
so
hope
much.
you have a wonderful day.
Likewise. Okay. Great
Thank
chatting
you.
with you.